We're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode podcast of Tea Time with Tia for Geek Vibes Nation. Sorry, phone went off. So, as you can see by the title, this is a review of Netflix's Umbrella Academy Season 2. Why I think it was virtually a perfect season and why I also believe it was better than Season 1. I have to start out by saying that there are going to be some spoilers in this review. I will try to keep that down to a minimum, but if you haven't seen the second season and you don't want anything spoiled, I will suggest watching this afterwards. If you don't particularly mind spoilers, then keep watching, but definitely make sure that you check out season 2 of Umbrella Academy. So, I remember when the first season came out, and I did certainly enjoy it. It had amazing storyline, characters, really great music, just so many fun, awesome scenes off the top of my head. I can think of when Five had to thwart off Hazel and Cha-Cha in the clothing store, and also Cha-Cha and Hazel getting high and destroying all of those eyeballs in the fake eyeball laboratory. So many other scenes as well, particularly the scene when Luther and Allison got their dance. Of course, that timeline was erased, but if you have been watching a few of my Tea Time with Tias, you know that I am a shipper of Allison and Luther, despite all of the maybe taboo-ness that goes into it. But regardless, I'm just saying that I did enjoy Umbrella Academy, even though I wouldn't rank it as high as some of the other shows that I had seen, at least with season 1, as opposed to, say, The Boys or Doom Patrol, as far as shows that are weird but also incredibly enjoyable. So this past Friday, the second season came out, and I already knew based on the trailer that it looked like it was more polished than season 1. Certainly, I was correct on that. That sounds really weird to people. Like, I was correct on that, as if, like, who the hell am I? But I would say that my expectations were certainly met with season 2. So here goes into the slight spoilers, right? And we see at the end of season 1, the Umbrella Academy does not successfully thwart off the end of times, the apocalypse. Instead, Five takes all of his siblings and tries to go back in time in order to just redo everything that they had messed up on. Well, instead of going maybe to where he wanted to, he instead went back to the 1960s and dropped off all of his siblings in different time periods, such as 1960, 1961, 1962, 1963. You get the idea. So by the time we meet back up with all of the siblings of the Umbrella Academy, they've all been in the early 1960s for some time and all have their kind of separate lives. And as you can kind of see from the trailers of the certain things that the siblings are involved in, such as Luther being involved in some bare knuckle fighting. Diego, seemingly from the trailer, looked like he was in a mental hospital, and that is true. He does end up there, and spoiler alert, the reason why he's there is because he is obsessed with trying to stop the assassination of Kennedy. And of course, everyone thinks that he's insane for saying that the president will be killed. So they throw him in insane asylum. So that's where we see him. Klaus has literally started a cult, which you saw from the trailers. And sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear. Paulie has the music. Let me tell him that it's a little loud. 1 second. Sorry, guys. But so where was I? Oh, Klaus started a cult, which you definitely saw from the trailers, and Allison is actually married. And I had kind of surmised that she was with the man that was in the trailers. When I did my whole Tea Time with Tia, I ship Allison and Luther. I said that based on the trailers, it looked like she was with that guy based on them sitting together in a diner and them holding hands while the gentleman was behind bars. So his name is Ray. And while I still maintain my stance that I ship Allison and Luther, Ray was a great character. I will 100% admit that Allison and Ray had a lot of chemistry with each other. And admittedly, he definitely was a little, weirded by all of the reveals later on in the season, because Allison hadn't told him that not only is she from the future, she has powers, but she also has a bunch of crazy siblings. So as you can imagine, if you're someone finding that out, that would be a bit strange. But he took it really well, all things considering. But anyway, so I'm just giving you where we find the siblings at the beginning of the season. Obviously, they all come together and they have so many things that they need to deal with. Not only do they need to dealing with another apocalypse that's going to happen, dealing with the fact that they want to stop, or at least Diego wants to stop, the assassination of President JFK. They also have to deal with the commission, because that's still a threat, and a new threat that pops up that her name is Lila. I won't give you a whole lot more information on that because you have to see all of the twists for yourself, but she is certainly a worthy character, a new character in season 2, which I hope they continue in season 3. I hope that Umbrella Academy gets a season 3, because certainly there's more story to tell with her. But what I loved about this season is, first of all, it looked better. I don't know, all the characters look better. Their costumes were great. The way they used their powers aesthetically was awesome. Just everything about that, even the little, effects that were used looked better than they did in season 1. I really enjoyed Klaus's story with Ben. There's a lot that you find out about Ben in season 2, which is so much more character development than we got in season 1. In fact, all of the characters have such great character development. I virtually didn't care at all about Diego in season 1. I just didn't necessarily like his personality. It wasn't something that made me want to like him as a character. And what we see in the 10 episodes of season 2 made me really like him. In fact, I would probably say that he kind of has reached the top of one of my favorite characters. I think that I'll probably always go to Klaus just because he's such an insanely interesting character. But I really enjoyed what they did with, say, Diego, Ben, and all of them. You get a lot of character development with Luther trying to figure out a world of where he is, say, not number 1, but dealing with it. You see the siblings dealing with the problems that arose in season 1, but dealing with it. It's great because in season 1, because I went back and watched a little of season 1, you notice that none of them particularly feel like they're family. They all kind of feel like strangers at some point, and they're not really particularly wanting to necessarily be around each other, and they're very standoffish, especially with, say, Vanya, which you can say is what pushed her towards the point to thus start the apocalypse. But with season 2, it shows that when they all act like siblings, when they team up with each other, when they create an air of communication and love and appreciation, but also comfort, that's when they're at their best, and they need each other. And I think that was more prevalent than ever in season 2, and it certainly had very positive results. I loved that. I loved because at this point now, it was convincing to me that they grew up together, that they had shared experiences, that they really did care for each other. So I think being dropped in a completely different era was very important for them, because it truly showed how much they needed one another and how much they needed to try to find each other. And I really, really enjoyed that. It just was a really refreshing take on all of the animosity that we had seen in season 1. So that is already what made season 2 superior to season 1. There's a lot that we find out, say, with their father, Reginald Hargreaves, still an asshole, probably more than ever. And we do see at some point the siblings confronting the traumatic effects that, say, being raised by someone so cold had on them. But we do see the origins of Pogo. We see the origins of Grace, which was something completely unexpected that I really enjoyed. There was just so many callbacks to season one that expanded on it and also opened our eyes a little. It certainly expanded the mythos in Umbrella Academy and made it more than just, say, based on the commission. Because after a while, having the commission as the adversary is going to get stale. And we saw by the huge cliffhanger that was at the end of season 2, which again, I will not go into, but at the end of season 2, there's a massive cliffhanger and has virtually nothing to do with the commission. It's something else entirely, which teases that we will probably be out of this whole trying to stop the apocalypse being up against the commission season 3, which is good. I think I had even expressed long time ago that with season 1, if they continue doing the whole they have to go back in time to stop the apocalypse every single season, that's going to get a bit stale. It's nice to see that they're definitely going in a different direction. But what was I going to say? They finally gave Vanya a healthy relationship, which she so desperately needed, because that's the thing about Vanya. She needed to be nurtured. The lack of nurturing in her life, along with the animosity that a lot of her siblings felt towards her, is really what drove her into the arms of, I think his name was Leonard, in the first season. So it really was needed for her to really find a comforting family, which I think they found. They so desperately wanted that with Vanya. They just maybe were always told not to do that with Vanya because their father had always pushed them to kind of push her away from everything, because they were all led to believe that she didn't have powers, which we see is not true. She is, in fact, probably the most powerful of them all. I want to say also Allison is extremely powerful. This season really expanded on her powers, other than her just being someone who sat back and like told, her ex or something, every once in a while that she heard a rumor. We really see like the potential and the possibilities of her powers, as well as Diego, because as I said, this also was from me not thinking that he was a particularly interesting character. I also felt that his powers really weren't that cool compared to the others. And they completely changed that in season 2. We see how the extent of his powers, which was really cool. Same thing with Luther. As I said, there's so much character development. They're all really strengthening themselves, which is something they didn't have growing up, even though they were pushed by their father. I think the lack of love between them and their father is what really put them back in life, because they just wanted to get away from all of that. And now that they kind of accept that they are not like everyone else, they are different, they finally have accepted that they need to work on their powers, because it is their responsibility to ensure that people are safe and they are thinking about the rest of the world instead of, say, just themselves. And we even see that with Five, which I think we've always seen that, even though he's a bit of a hard ass and snarky and all that. Really, at the core of everything, it's his family. Everything that he cares about, everything that is a driving factor for him doing what he does, all stems from him really just wanting to keep his family safe. And I really like that. He, of course, is just hilarious, being this young kid who's really supposed to be playing a older adult who is the senior among the siblings. So that was really cool. But let me take a sip of my coffee. 1 second. Yes, I know tea time, but drinking coffee. Where was I? Yeah, I don't know. Season 2 is just really good. In so many ways, it was superior. The social issues that they also faced, not only with Klaus being someone who is homosexual in the early 60s, also dealing with you remember his lover in season 1, Dave, and trying to prevent Dave from enlisting so that he doesn't die in Vietnam. But the biggest, of course, battle of social issues came from Allison, because while she comes from, while right now is certainly a crazy time and tensions are extremely high and there's so much going on, Allison, as a woman of color, being taken from modern day into the 60s where there was still segregation, is, had to have been so jarring for her. One of the scenes that we have is her running into a diner and being faced with so many people so mad that she's in there and pointing at a sign that says whites only, which, me as a modern day individual just find that so unfathomable. But she's dealing with that. And it was really cool because not that was cool, but it was cool that she joined the civil rights movement. So we see that while Allison is stuck in the 60s, she's also making the most out of her time there, because her and her husband, Ray, are part of the civil rights movement. They're really working towards changing the world for the better. And I really appreciated that with Allison. But there's this scene where they stage a sit-in, and that had to have been one of the most intense scenes in the entire season. Also the most anxiety riddled scene because of how they're treated by all of the white patrons in the diner, and just being absolutely appalled that people even react that way to people of color just simply sitting in a diner. But that's something that people of color had to deal with back then, and still in many ways still have to deal with today. So the fact that Umbrella Academy took a moment to be that socially aware, that they wanted to include something like that, to know we are going back in the 60s, we have to talk about this. And I certainly appreciate that they decided to talk about it, and decided to give that sort of storyline to Allison. It was very important, and it was very admirable. So I like that a lot. They included things from the past, as I said, with the JFK. Luther is working for Jack Ruby. If you don't know who Jack Ruby is, in real life, he was a real life mafia gangster who actually killed Lee Harvey Oswald, who was the guy who killed JFK. So, I'm sorry. They include a lot of real life history stuff. I'm so sorry about that, guys. I just had pizza. It was really good this season. I can't stop talking about it. You definitely need to go to geek5snation.com. Our associate Kelly, who I've done Geek Vibes review over Unsolved Mysteries with, actually just wrote a full in detail review on season 2. You have to check that out. She is such an amazing, talented writer, and certainly puts her feelings for Umbrella Academy season 2 in a more eloquent way than I'm probably doing right now. But I think the both of us certainly agreed that we really enjoyed the season. And in fact, I know that she went back and rewatched season 2 after completing it. And I did the same thing, because I certainly didn't want it to end. It was heart pounding, especially the final showdown, and the final episode was really well done. It really kept you on the edge of your seat. You didn't know if history was going to repeat itself from the first season. You didn't know what was going to go on. I could have sworn there was a character or two that was going to get killed. I sat there really there was one character that I sat there and I was like, oh my God, is this say their swan song? I even texted my friend Cindy saying, oh my God, are they going to kill blank? And she goes, I think so. And that really, they did that really well, keeping you on your toes, keeping you in suspense, which you always appreciate. I have to wonder if there was a different director this season. I know that Gerard Way, who is the lead singer of My Chemical Romance, created Umbrella Academy and has like the comics, and also has a lot to do with the actual production of the TV show. But I have to wonder if some people who are different are involved with season 2, because it certainly felt different. In a lot of ways, it felt the same. All of them felt like the same characters that you know and you loved from season 1. But I have to wonder to myself if there were some people who were different, or if maybe it was just that the actors were now more comfortable with their characters, as opposed to season 1, where they're just first developing them and first figuring them out. I'm just wondering, because it certainly had a different vibe to it. Maybe it was the fact that it's taking place in the 1960s. Perhaps the creators had more freedoms to talk about social issues or do certain things, as opposed to doing it in the modern day. I'm not sure, but certainly season 2 ended on a huge cliffhanger, something I don't think any of us were expecting to happen. But I think that if it gets the green light for a 3rd season, which it absolutely should, it's going to show the siblings that now more than ever, they need to band together. If they thought that ending the apocalypse twice was the hardest thing, the hardest challenge they were going to have to face, they certainly were mistaken, because what they will face in season 3 will be probably 10 times harder than what they had to deal in season 1 and 2. And that is saying so much. I mean, can you imagine every time they go back in the past, it's like, oh, by the way, you have 10 to 8 days to stop the apocalypse. It's like, you couldn't have given me like a year? You give me a few days here? So that always happened. But the music was still just as good, if not better. The action sequences were insane. There's several fight scenes, say with Diego, that are just so well done. That final battle scene was so beautiful, so powerful. There was the costuming was amazing. The way they set up so many scenes, as I said, when they staged the sit-in, when they had this very powerful scene that involved Ben, or even when they had the siblings facing the trauma and the long-lasting effects that their father bestowed on them. That was really done, and I think in many ways was also shown more. See, this is what the thing that Umbrella Academy does. They do throw in a lot of humor to kind of use that. But just like I think with the siblings, they use it as a coping mechanism to show something a lot more serious, because in reality, what Reginald did to those children is the like definition of child abuse. And he completely justified it by it being for, say, the greater good, or just being for scientific experiments. But in reality, they were just children, which was always a fantastic scene that I appreciated in season 1, when Klaus told his dead father that, you know, we were just children and this is how you treated us. So I really just like, I'm going to ramble on and on if I go any further. You just absolutely have to watch season 2 of Umbrella Academy. Believe me, you will not regret it. It was engaging from the first second to the last second. There never really felt like there was a lull at all. If there was, it was completely necessary to be a nice little reprieve from the intense moments that we saw maybe in the previous episode or earlier in that current episode. So please, if you have not watched Umbrella Academy season 2, I certainly hope that I didn't spoil it too much. I really tried to not do that. But make sure you turn on your Netflix app, watch it. It was so good. I feel like I could definitely rewatch it over and over again, because there was a lot for me to kind of digest and also pick up. I feel like there was something I wanted to talk about with season 2 that I had noticed the second time around, and now I can't remember it necessarily, but it's perfectly okay. But you will experience that as you keep watching it, just picking up on little things as you go. It was so wonderful. It was such a wonderful season, a vast improvement on season 1, which was already a good season, but certainly had its quips, had a lot of strange things that they didn't need to say go on, or it was just an improvement. It was just an improvement. You can tell that everything was so much more polished, and clearly I'm not the only one, because if you look at almost any review for season 2 of Umbrella Academy, it's pretty positive, if not ravingly positive. So make sure you go to geek5nation.com. As I just said, check out Kelly's review of Umbrella Academy Season 2. Please give this video a like, subscribe to Geek Fives Podcast. Check us out on all social medias, Geek Fives Nation. That's where you'll find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Vero. You can find all of our podcasts on any application that you listen to your podcast, such as iTunes, Castbox, Spotify, whatever. We're there, believe me. And please just make sure you check out for more Tea Time with Tias, as well as all of our podcasts. I also do the Top 10, Geek Fives Live. We have They Call This a Movie, Scene a Nerd, Marnie and Kathy's Coffee Binge, Wrestling Geeks Alliance, Skates to Throat, and so many others. Ricky's Music City Drive-In, and we have another affiliate that's coming on board that we will be announcing very soon. But thank you. Please let me know on Twitter at TiaFabi what you thought of Umbrella Academy Season 2, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.